Solitudes is late Season 1, and it begins with everyone preparing for an unscheduled arrival. So things are bad. They could be bad because this is an attempted invasion. It could be bad because the thing could be malfunctioning. It could be bad because an SG team needs to beat an early retreat. Basically, the special of today is bad. And how would Monsieur like to have his special prepared, Might I suggest a side dish of, how you say, crepe? It looks like SG-1. So they prepare to open the iris, but things are hinky. It's drawing too much power. Teal'c and Daniel are thrown through and the gate overloads and shuts down. All in all, we should be very happy that there's not a group of observers from management around. This is not our finest hour. Not when we lose half the flagship team and break the alien technology in the process. Instead, we find O'Neill and Carter in an ice cave next to a different Stargate, so at least they weren't atomized or sent into the Phantom Zone or something. Gotta find the little victories in these situations. After the titles, Teal'c explains what happened. They were ambushed by some kind of energy weapons, the team withdrew, and the other two were right behind Teal'c when he went through. You can't imagine them being killed before they reached it. And yeah, as we established, they came out, though from the state of O'Neill's leg, not on a planet that has discovered airbags. When he comes to, Carter explains that the two are alone here, that Daniel must have dialed a wrong number and dumped them here on Hoth or wherever it is they are. And to top it off, Carter can't find the dial home device, so they can't dial home. So things are kind of grim here in the frozen wasteland. Plus, Teal'c was carrying all their snow cone material, so the one time they could have used that... Oh. Back in the gate room...
Just tell me the minute we can send a probe through.
That'll be 24 hours, General Minimum.
Captain Carter and Colonel O'Neill do not have that long.
I'll give you half that.
No, sir, it doesn't work that way.
Thank you. About time someone said that this isn't a case of padding it out with visits by health and safety and union-mandated coffee breaks. Repair estimates aren't like negotiating. You don't come in with a high figure because you know they're going to talk you down. We'll need to tell the rover to change direction and check out that site right away. We'll do it. It's going to take about 3 minutes for the signal to reach the Mars rover. You have 2 minutes. But the signal can't go faster than the speed of light on account of being, well, light. Einstein said, "Does Einstein have 3 stars on his shoulder? I didn't think so. Make it happen." Meanwhile, Carter is doing her best to deal with O'Neill's broken leg.
Is this your first broken bone?
No. This would be 9 if you count skull fractures.
The plural there is certainly something to be concerned about, though O'Neill tells of only one incident. Maybe mixing up singular and plural is what happens when you've had a skull fracture. Perhaps the episode was actually supposed to be Solitude instead. Carter has checked their supplies. Not so great. They've got some sterno for fuel, or to drink, I suppose. May be the best use for it if you're stranded in an Arctic cave. But O'Neill appoints himself morale officer since Carter's not up to that, insisting that they get home somehow, and even taking a stroll with Carter to help. Should be a good thing to do on that ice with that broken leg. I see no problems there. Daniel's coming around at least. I think he is fading. I'll give him the kiss of life. No. I'm awake. This is just to update Daniel on what's happened. He didn't sleep through all the excitement, after all. Back in the Wampa Cave, Carter's found the answer, the DHD. Only problem is, someone decided to preserve it in ice for future generations, so they're going to have to hack it out with their combat knives. Carter notes that of all the possibilities, the odds are extremely remote that they're ever going to be found. A revelation which is why O'Neill is the morale officer. And also because he's the funny one.
I think I cracked a rib, too.
Why didn't you say something?
I was afraid you'd try to put a splint on it.
See, O'Neill always knows how to break the ice. Especially helpful under these circumstances, actually. Back at the SGC, they finally finish repairing the Stargate and get to work on the rescue operation.
Look, in the event we find no enemy activity on the other side, you will coordinate with Major Castleman on the rescue mission.
Chevron 6.
Sometimes I think Teal'c gets paid by the frown. But they make the connection and send through the probe. How do you feel about that, Teal'c?
You know what? I'm happy.
Well, I'm afraid despite this enthusiasm, the rescue mission is a bust. The probe sent through is almost immediately under attack. The team wouldn't last more than a few seconds before they were crispied. And speaking of being well done, O'Neill is making dinner for a little rest in their endless chopping of the ice. But Sam does have a theory.
But the theory we have so far is that the gate creates an artificial wormhole that somehow transfers an energized matter stream in one direction along an extra-dimensional conduit.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby.
I think the matter stream between Stargates got redirected, kind of like a lightning bolt jumping from one point to another in mid-strike.
Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
I figure it had to have been the attack on P4A771. The gate itself was probably struck by enough energy during the firefight to influence the direction of the matter stream before we reached the other side.
This has significant implications for their rescue efforts, right?
I'm sorry, I wasn't listening.
Start over again at the boring part. The upshot is that this could mean a much faster search pattern, but so far, Daniel and Teal'c are starting with a Carl Sagan millions and millions approach to deal with this, so hopefully they're going to reach the same conclusion eventually.
Could it just disappear?
No, I don't think so, sir. It would have to discharge somewhere.
Like another Stargate?
Teal'c breaks out the frown of hope.
Charged matter streams along lines of force between them.
Positive to negative, like electricity, right?
Except for the fact that the whole trip happens outside our dimension. Yeah, more or less.
The frown of approval. So with Daniel on the right track, they can get started with a search of all the gates in between. Which is good because after all the time spent digging out the DHD buttons, the Stargate doesn't open. It powers up, but no wormhole. I guess being stuffed into a glacier voided its warranty. Carter thinks that this is actually a simple problem. You know how it is when you repair stuff. 4 hours to get to the damn panel and then 2 minutes to fix the problem once you've got it off. So O'Neill says to bunk down for the night, or day, whatever it might be outside of the ice cave. Once we've gotten a few hours sleep, we can get right back to hacking through more ice. Nice to know we'll have something to keep our minds busy so we won't dwell on our situation. Still, though, at least the search is still on.
I have formally reported Colonel O'Neill and Captain Carter as missing in action.
Why?
Well, because they're missing. During action with the enemy. Didn't really know what other boxes to check off on the form. So, how are things in MIA land? Not great. Except for those into trapped in the wilderness erotic thrillers, of course. They get to do that whole combining body heat to survive thing.
Colonel.
It's my sidearm, I swear.
Well, so long as everything is strictly platonic, we can get back to digging out the DHD. Only, Carter can't figure out why it's not working. Besides being frozen in a block of ice for who knows how long. Plus, O'Neill's not doing well. Seems freezing and being malnourished in a cave hasn't sped up his recovery.
No, sir. You need to heal. That's an order.
I give the orders around here.
No doctor's orders.
Uh-oh. Fine, you're in charge, Just don't touch me. Carter is frustrated. The thing that she's best at is the thing that she is failing at. And because of that, O'Neill is likely going to die down here. That's a lot of pressure. I mean, when I screw up, I mostly just inconvenience others. I've never accidentally killed someone before because I screwed up a formula in Excel.
Captain.
Sir.
It's time to go to Plan B.
What plan B be?
B as in booty call, and this time it won't be my sidearm. He figures it's time for her to head out with whatever supplies are left and try to make it alone. But she insists on trying to save them both. And besides, the SGC won't leave them behind. They'll figure it out and come get them. General Hammond is never going to call the search off.
I'm calling the search off.
Well, I guess Plan B it is then. The list of possible planets has been exhausted, and we have had a bad injury on the last one. At this point, it's throwing good lives into jeopardy on a plan that's going nowhere. So it's going to be down to Carter. Well, I hate to say it, but Carter is making one of those classic troubleshooting mistakes. When you're not sure what's wrong, you test everything. If it looks like everything in your PC is perfectly fine, but there's nothing happening on the monitor, check the monitor and the cord. You don't just keep using the same one unless you're sure that the problem isn't with either of them. This is why tech support asks you stupid questions. You get so focused on whether or not all the interior components you installed were compatible with each other and your OS so that nothing goes wrong, you forget that you unplugged the monitor to plug in your drill. Sometimes while scratching your head with the drill while trying to figure out what you did wrong. Still, one thing this does accomplish is shaking the Earth Stargate so much that it's like a small earthquake down there. So Daniel pieces it together. They're not on an ice planet like the two of them thought. They're on Earth, in a place that happens to be icy. Daniel's theory is that there was already a Stargate on Earth, but the Goa'uld either didn't know about it or they lost contact with it, so they brought in one of their own and put it in Egypt. What happened is the energy surge caused the wormhole to jump to the other Stargate on Earth and dump the pair there. That's why Carter couldn't dial Earth. She already was on Earth. Like I said, always make sure you plug the monitor back in. So they do a search and find the source of unusual vibration, coinciding with the use of the Stargate, would put the location in Antarctica, 50 miles from McMurdo, in fact. So they race to the rescue while Carter has returned, convinced that this is definitely an ice world, no intelligent life here. And God knows we've all felt that way sometimes. In a subtle moment, O'Neill calls Carter Sarah, his ex-wife's name, who was what had allowed him to survive with a skull fracture behind enemy lines years ago. His love for her, his need to get back to her. But not to worry, the day is indeed saved as the rescue team arrives with Teal'c, Daniel, and even Hammond himself. So we've got a backup for our alien super tech, which is always a nice thing, but more importantly, our friends have been found and rescued. And I'm sure just the thought of that gives Teal'c the widest, deepest frown of happiness he has ever had. Solitudes gets a stamp of recommended. This is an episode that, when it comes down to it, is a bunch of people doing very little of anything. So why would I say that? It's because the strength of the work is in its structure. It shifts around so that even though things aren't full of energy, they're never allowed to really reach a point of overstaying their welcome. Thus, we get a series of small character moments and brief flurries of activity, which becomes enough to carry us over from scene to scene, and to allow mood to be properly established. Even if you know the mystery is going to turn out the way it does, it still doesn't diminish this execution.
All hail the Overlord! All hail the Overlord!
What happens when you dial your own phone number? Wrong person to ask.